All right. So here's the continuation of that last one. This is kind of a video about the stuff I'm doing. First thing is I'm watching the Alabama, excuse me, not Alabama, the Auburn FSU BCS championship game. I was actually able to get the feed of the game online right through ESPN.com. So it's like ESPN3. The great thing is it's pretty much just the raw video feed that you never get on TV. So, I mean, most of it's what you're going to get on TV, but there's a lot of stuff that you're not getting. And then the audio is actually the FSU sports radio station that is doing the broadcast. So this is actually the FSU crew doing the broadcast. And so you get that video, that audio overlaid on the ESPN's video, which is great because then whenever it cuts to commercial, you don't actually see a commercial. You hear the commercial, the radio commercial, but all you see is just sort of raw footage of people wandering around in the buffet line inside the hospitality tent, or shots outside of the Rose Bowl, those sorts of things. So it's a great way to watch the game, and I wanted to watch it anyway. Obviously my parents live in Tallahassee, and during Thanksgiving, Nikki, I don't think I mentioned it to you. Dan knows this, but I've got a couple of friends, a friend named Laurie, her mother Sam, and I grew up with these people down in Georgia, and they happen to have a beach house about a quarter of a mile away from my parents' beach house in Panama City. So day before Thanksgiving, I called Laurie just on a lark, and they said they were on their way down, so I got to see them on Thanksgiving Day. Which, by the way, I got to eat a whole plate of homemade collard greens, which if you've never had homemade collard greens, you probably don't want them. It's kind of like lutefisk for the Norwegians. Um, but her dad, Herschel, went to Auburn. I think actually her mom went to Auburn as well. Um, but growing up as a kid, obviously down in Atlanta, um, even though my dad wasn't a huge football fan, the Owenses, Laurie and her parents were big Auburn fans, and Laurie and my dad went to Georgia Tech, so there was always the SEC, ACC rivalries, and there was always the Auburn Alabama game that we watched. So, even though I probably didn't manifest a lot of sports nuttiness when I was younger, I mean, I do really enjoy football, and I tend to watch um, some games anyway. I saw the Auburn game where they beat Alabama. Actually, Preston and I watched that in Paducah, Kentucky. That was really cool. And I didn't see the game where they beat Georgia, but I saw all the highlights from it. But yeah, that's what I'm doing. It's cold in Minnesota right now. On my way to work this morning, I went by several of the bank clocks, and there was a couple of minus 20s, a minus 22, and a minus 27. So I'm voting for the minus 27. It's pretty good. Um, I like it this cold. It's just, I don't know, kind of an honest cold. There's, I don't know. And it was windy. It was like 25-mile-an-hour winds too. It was really funny. We had a couple of tragedies in our area recently. Last week, New Year's Eve, a woman um, was in La Crosse driving. She was 21 and went on a state student and somehow missed a turn and went down a 60-foot embankment and ended up on the ice on the backwaters with her car. But she didn't break through, and that's not where it ended. Inexplicably, and certainly no one understands why, she decided to drive forward and drove another quarter of a mile down this back channel. And her car broke through and she drowned. Um, so again, no one will really know what she was thinking or why she didn't simply get out of her car when she had stopped, when she had first come down the embankment, and why she chose to drive down down the backwater. So, of course, the toxicology report's 3 weeks out, so we don't know if she was drunk or not. Um, and then Saturday night, about 1:30 in the morning, a group of four left a bar here in town, and they were actually heading out towards Glenn's out towards Glenn's house. So if you're coming from our Huff Street Cafe and you go down and then essentially you're looking right at the river and you end up turning a left, they did not negotiate the turn and ended up going straight right over the bank and down and broke right through. And of course, this is 1:30 in the morning. Nobody's around. Nobody notices it until 7 in the morning. Somebody sees the tracks and the hole in the ice and puts two and two together. Search and rescue come down, put a camera down the hole, and see the car. They end up pulling it out. There's the driver and the front seat passenger are still strapped in. And they, based on the interviews they did, they believe there were two other men in the car as well, but they weren't in it. They couldn't. When they pulled the car out, they were not in the van. Apparently, some of the windows were blown out, so they did find one of the bodies today. I think they were looking for the second one. So I mean, literally, it's minus 20 degrees outside, and these search and rescue guys, are down there in the open water, searching for these bodies. I mean, that's some work that deserves a lot of thanks. So it's cold. It's really cold, and good things happen in the cold, bad things happen in the cold. We've been out a lot on the backwaters hiking with the dogs. Now, you think that having just talked about a car breaking through, that would be a dangerous thing to do, but where we are, we know the water's no more than 3 feet deep. And it is frozen solid. So the dogs can run free, and we go out and hike. And we didn't go out the last couple of days when it was so cold, but we've been out when it's 10 or 5 degrees, and that's if you dress appropriately, it's actually really nice out there. The great thing about the snowshoes is the snow's only about maybe a foot deep or 8 inches deep. There's not a lot of snow right now. And the snowshoes, what they really do is they distribute your weight a little more broadly rather than just the narrow foot. It also provides you with traction because they have big claws on the bottom of them. So I found, Dan, you probably see me try to run lately. I can't run at all, but with the snowshoes on in the snow, I can actually jog, and it doesn't hurt. It's pretty cool. So like I said, we've been out there a lot. Christmas and New Year's, we did not go to Sun River. We went to Sun Winona. Although we had a son come back, and he was near a river, so it's like a Sun River. Duncan actually came back on Christmas Day. We picked him up in the airport. And then New Year's, of course, I did the big 10,000 yard swim on New Year's Day, and that was really enjoyable. We had a great group. We had 17 swimmers who came out. We started anywhere between like 7 and 9. And we all finished right around 10:30, and we all ate, because everybody brought potluck food and sat around the pool deck and laughed and talked and had generally a good time. And then that afternoon, Beth and Kyle no, that was Christmas Day. Beth and I and Kyle and Jim went out snowshoeing. So New Year's Day we went out snowshoeing later that day as well. So I got him the play coming up. I don't actually know what it's called, but the director of the last play, who was also the general director of the Shakespeare Festival, wrote this play several years back. And he has already cast it. He knows who he wants. And he asked me to be one of the leads, Seti the First. So hopefully, as Pharaoh, I get to wear very little clothing, shave my head, and actually have my brains pulled out through my nasal passages after I die. So I'm looking forward to that. But there's several timelines in the play. So you've got ancient Egypt, you've got contemporary U.S. So apparently there's this woman in contemporary U.S. who's been reincarnated as this, main squeeze of Seti the First back in ancient Egypt. So I don't really know the story very well, but that should be in the spring. Lee's just going to try to get Theater to Mississippi to underwrite the play so they can produce it. got nothing else. You know, the kids are doing the kid thing, but Preston's Nordic skiing, Colleen's gymnastics, Marshall's karate. I don't know if I told you, Nikki, but Marshall had applied for the Rotary Exchange. It's a full year exchange. He wanted to go to Finland, and he did not get it. They encouraged him to come back and apply again next year. He was one of 75. He was one of only 2 freshmen who applied. So, you know, I think they're looking for, you know, a little older and more mature. So, Beth as well. And I think I'll end this video and go USA. Have you figured out where I am yet?